what's in the box? Wait, don't open it. Okay guys, let's take a look at the Mimighoul deck profile. I'm going to talk about the main deck, the extra deck, a little bit on the siding, and when we go through, as this is a relatively new archetype, I'm still going to be talking about the effects that some of these guys have, just in case you aren't currently aware of them, and some of the synergies that they have with other cards in the deck. So we kick things off with 3 copies of Mimighoul Dragon. This guy searches for one of your Mimighoul spells or traps. Really important because it gets you to the field spell, which is more advantage, or it gets you to the quick play spell, which is going to summon more guys to the board. Then 3 copies of Archfiend. This is honestly my favorite Mimighoul card. The way that it interacts with your opponent is to trade advantage, so it gives you an extra card and it takes a card away from your opponent. I really love interactions in the game where they play around with the cards in the hand. The last Mimighoul name that we've got in the level 1 lineup is Cerberus. The effect is just not as powerful as Archfiend and Dragon at the present state. Really interesting to see if there are more TCG exclusive Mimighoul level 1 names to add to this lineup, like more treasure chests to set and then flip. So all of these guys are the treasure chests, you put them face down on your opponent's field, and then when they flip them up, they give you some cool effect that you get to play around with. So then the only other monsters in the Mimighoul lineup are 2 copies of Master. It's played at 2 in pretty much every Mimighoul list that you'll ever see, because committing to this normal summon is just arguably worse than committing to some of these guys in a normal summon. This is all of the Mimighoul monsters that we play in the main deck. And then for the rest of the engine, 3 copies of Dungeon. This gets to add a Mimighoul name from deck or graveyard to the hand. If your opponent controls a face-down monster, then they're unable to normal summon. Now, a lot of the summoning in Yu-Gi-Oh that happens is special summoning, but most decks will typically lead a turn with a normal summon, like normal summon of Snake Eye Ash. So locking your opponent out of the normal summon can often win you games. 1 terraforming to go with that. You just need to max out on this stuff because this is giving you so much advantage every turn. 3 copies of Maker. This is the spell that's going to be summoning to your opponent's field. And then we've got 3 copies of Mimighoul Room. So this is going to special summon a Mimighoul to your opponent's field, and then Book of Moon one of their guys. So just netting you like a little disrupt here, like having another Book of Moon in the deck. And always, you know, giving your opponent a dragon is pretty cool because it just blows up their board. If we go on, we've got a Kashtira lineup. Very popular because all of the Mimighoul cards that your opponent is going to have are going to activate on your opponent's side of the field. So we've got 2 copies of Fenrir, 2 copies of Unicorn, 2 copies of Wraitsoth, and 1 Birth. All of these Mimighoul guys, they're going to activate on your opponent's side of the field. So if you give your opponent an Archfiend, and then at some point you like summon a Unicorn and then flip this guy face up, it's going to activate. You're then going to banish something from their extra deck, and then if they play again, then you get to banish another one, so potentially you're ripping 2 cards out of the extra deck very early on. Really love this lineup. Birth, banish for graveyard, still crazy. Yeah, really enjoying this lineup. Definitely recommend it if you're keen. The rest of the deck is sort of non-engineering stuff. So 3 copies of Prosperity. The deck has like a lot of cool engine pieces, but for the most part you need to be able to see them in the right combination to actually get set up, so I really enjoy Prosperity for this aspect. Then for the sort of disrupt side of the non-engine, we've got 3 copies of D-Shifter. Yes, Dungeon does add back from the graveyard as an option, but D-Shiftering doesn't necessarily hurt your deck because there is, like, apart from the spell, having graveyard effects is not really an important part. Like, none of the monsters do cool stuff in the graveyard. Shifter just completely blows out so many decks. It just seems crazy not to choose to play this card in a deck that can survive. And 3 copies of Ash Blossom. This has been the most impactful hand trap aside from Shifter for me in recent weeks. So This is basically your flex spot. You choose whatever hand trap is going to be the most powerful for your deck and shove this in here. So the deck sometimes struggles with breaking boards, right? So to try and solve that issue, one of the options was to play the cash cards because these break boards really easily. Another thing that helps with breaking the boards is the fact that Dragon, when it's flipped up, blows up your opponent's field. So this is another in-engine way to deal with boards and push through. However, even so, you can often struggle to break the sort of more imposing boards, the ones that have too many negates on and stuff. So, in an attempt to resolve that, the other hand trap in the deck is Infinite Impermanence, because you can still play this on your turn. You can always just Prosperity into an Imperm and then find ways to break it after that, or you can Prosperity into your cash stuff. So I think this card is definitely a good choice if you're playing this version of the deck. There are some cool tech choices which we'll look at when we get to the side deck as well as alternatives. And then last two cards in the main deck are 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. Your opponent is going to be activating loads of monster effects when you give them all of your Mimighoul cards, so you can just do cool stuff with talents. On to extra deck. So, as mentioned earlier, right, all of these Mimighoul guys, except for Master, they're all level 1 Earth, different types. So we need to play some good link monsters that take advantage of the fact that they are level 1, so obviously, play Relinquished Anima. The fact that you could just like blow up opposing boards, and then if they still have something left around, you can just like go into an Anima. It's kind of crazy. The thing that happens a lot with this deck, right, is you're doing all of these cool things where you're giving opponents monsters, they flip up, and then they return to you. And then you just end up with like a load of level 1 bodies, and you need to figure out something to do with them, right? And you need to be able to play in the following turns, so you have to find ways to disrupt your opponent. So Anima is a good way to improve the board breaking ability of the deck. But then we need ways to disrupt the opponent, so that comes in the form of SP and IP. Just ways to summon on the opponent's turn, using all of the various link materials that you've got floating around. Alongside that, to help break the boards even more, we've got a copy of Moon of the Closed Heaven. There is a goddess to go with this, but I'm going to do this in link order. Phoenix, Unicorn. I'm sure you're sensing a theme here. We're just trying to break the opponent's board. We've done all of our Mimighoul stuff, and now we're just trying to break the opponent's board and set up some disrupts, basically, right? Then on top of this, again, you're gonna have a load of link materials, summon an access code talker with them, because a 5300 access code talker is pretty crazy. You can go via a lot of these guys, so you can get multiple pots off your access code. Apollo, it is possible to just end up randomly with like 4 materials, and this is a good way to set up disrupts. And then Beauregard Dragon, this interacts with all of your flip effects, so this is kind of crazy. Once per turn quick effect, you can target a monster on the field, change it to face or defense position. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect, which is crazy, right? Because you can give your opponent a dragon, face down, you summon your Beauregard, and then your Beauregard flips this up, they can't respond, this summons and blows up their entire board. And then you get it, and then you get another material. So that's kind of crazy. Last link monster is Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. If we're going to link with 1 opposing monster, why not link with 2 of them? Yeah, lots of stuff to break boards and a few little bits of interruptions in the forms of these 4 here. I've been really enjoying these link monsters. Let me know if you've got suggestions for alternatives. And then the rest of the extra deck is all Xyz monsters. So we've got lots of level 1 monsters, so we can summon a Lyrilusk Assembled Nightingale, because this can attack directly and then go into a Downerd, into a Zeus. And what do you know? Not only do we have the option to break a board with this, we also have the option to have a disrupt, which the deck sometimes struggles to get to. So I find this really useful. I love just Zeus in general, just any deck that can make Zeus. So alongside that, as I mentioned, we've got to find ways to put more disrupts into the deck, so Ensemble Robin is a way to do that. This guy gets to bounce an opposing card that was special summoned. It can do that twice in the same turn, but only once per chain. Really, really cool. Loving playing this card. And then the final one is a Typhon. This is the rest of the extra deck. That's it for the main and extra. I'll quickly talk about some of the side deck things that we do with this deck. So you'll notice most of the main deck is Earth, you know, the Kashtira, the Mimighouls, bits and pieces like that. So what's a card that is very powerful and not impacted by Earth monsters? Well, Dominus Purge. Dominus Purge is essentially another copy of Ash Blossom that you can play, which has no restriction when you're just playing your Earth monsters. Sure, sometimes it will lock you out of your Extra deck cards because it does dark, water, and fire. So you won't be able to summon like this guy, for example, or the Downerd or something. But you could still make a Zeus. You could still do lots of cool stuff. You could still, you know, you could still make an Apollo under this, right? There's no restriction on wins. So there are lots of cool things that you can do with the extra deck. There's basically very, very little limitation to playing Dominus Purge in this deck. So definitely one to consider. Another one that's been going around on the various groups, like Facebook groups and Discord channels and things, is Book of Eclipse. This is an interesting one because it's going to flip your opponent's monsters face down. That makes it so that your dungeon is more powerful, right? Because if your opponent only controls face down monsters, then they can't do their normal summon. So this is a way to interact with the dungeon and make it more powerful. It feels a bit weird because if you flip down your own Mimighoul cards, when you flip them up again, they're going to swap back to your opponent, which is not what you want to be doing. It's been doing the rounds on the different forums, as I say. See what you think about this one. Most of the builds that are out there doing well at OTS championships and other events are playing more ball breakers in the deck because Kashtira cards are not enough sometimes. So people are often putting in evenly matched and Dark Ruler no more. When you pair these with the fact that, you know, you could evenly away most of an opponent's board or Dark Ruler an opponent's board, and then you can finish them off with a Dragon Flip. This is like one of the combos that the deck has, right? Is that you just sort of give them, get rid of all of the important stuff that's going to stop your dragon from resolving, and then resolve your dragon, right? Resolving dragon's crazy. This deck is hilarious, but resolving dragon is the crazy part. So yeah, these are some options to consider. In terms of side outs, obviously the focus is on the non-engine. Well, that's it for the discussion on the side deck and the brief look at the Mimighoul deck in all of its glory. There are lots of variations on this deck, cool ways to play it. I've been really having a lot of fun with it. Highly recommend it to anyone who's into the mechanic. It's just such a crazy mechanic, right? This is I think one of my favorite things that Konami has ever done with like a proper theme, because the way that the effect works really reflects that sort of mystery of, there's a mysterious thing that's been given to me and it's just waiting for me, and then, oh no, it's a horrible monster. Yeah, I love how thematic it is. So give it a shot. Let me know how it goes. There are some cool variations using the Fiendsmith engine. My view of that is basically, if you're going to play Fiendsmith engine, just play with Snake Eye maybe, or yugioh. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Welcome to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. If you're interested, you can watch some more videos that will be appearing somewhere on the screen. If you've enjoyed making it to the end of the video, we're going to start a little club. We're going to do the Extra Deck Club. So if you just pop a little hashtag EDC in the comments, then I'll know that you are a member of Extra Deck Club. And let's see what we can do with the Extra Deck Club over the coming videos. See you around.